We need to consider the cyber kill chain and any defensive actions that we can do within our organization. This is a very quick introduction about the Lockheed-Martin Cyber Kill-Chain process. Now, computer scientists at Lockheed-Martin Corporation described a new intrusion kill chain framework or model to defend the computer networks in 2011. They wrote that the attacks may occur in phases and can be disrupted through controls established at each phase. Since then, the cyber kill chain has been adopted by data security organizations to define phases of this cyber attack. The cyber kill chain reveals the phases of a cyber attack, from an early reconnaissance to the goal of data exfiltration. The kill chain can be also used as a management tool to help continuously improve the network defense. According to Lockheed Martin, threats must progress through several phases in the model, and these include the following. We have got the first step as the reconnaissance. We have weaponization. Then we have to deliver that weapon. Once the exploitation takes place, we do the installation, or the attacker does the installation. Then that installation would connect back to a command and control center, and then the final step will be the exfiltration. Now, quickly to review each one of these processes is that your reconnaissance is the research, the identification, and the selection of targets using numerous tools, including open source intelligence gathering and applications, OSINT, but also on the dark web. A lot of information is available for targets. Step 2, the weaponization is the development of a remote access malware weapon, such as a worm or a virus, with specific actionable attributes. And sometimes this development is targeted specifically for an organization. We've seen that malware is developed with the IP address of certain servers within the organization once they've actually identified those. The delivery step is the attacker then transmits that weapon that was developed to the intended target. Numerous methods, including email, websites that you visit that has been compromised, US devices, applications such as demos or games or anything like that, tools that are downloaded such as hacking and cracking tools sometimes by staff contains these weapons within the delivery mechanism. But then once the delivery has taken place, the exploitation is the next step. So this malware weapons program code triggers, which takes action on the target network to exploit a certain vulnerability. That could be an unpatched vulnerability or even a zero-day vulnerability. Once that is done, the malware would install access points. It will create backdoors, and that will be usable by the intruder. Mostly, the next step is the command and control. This is where the malware enables an intruder to have hands on the keyboard, persistent access to the target network. This is the virus or the malware or the weapon from an internal point of view connecting back to a predetermined target, whereby a hacker would sit at that target and actually have a reverse tunnel in the organization. A firewall normally does not help in that situation. And finally, the step 7 has been identified as exfiltration. This is where the intruder takes action to achieve their goals. It could be anything from data exfiltration, data destruction, or encryption for ransomware. Now, what we need to do is actually look at the defensive courses of action within this cyber kill chain. We have 6 steps that we can do. We can detect, we can deny, we can disrupt, also degrade, deceive, and contain. Each one of those steps, if we look at it, detect would be, for example, the monitoring and logging to a SIM or a security incident and event management in order to determine unauthorized access. Next, we'll deny, where we can prevent information disclosure and unauthorized access with role-based access control. The next step 2 is to disrupt, to stop or change outbound traffic to the attacker using tools like firewalls or edge routers. And then we can degrade the communication. So this is a counterattack command and control or internal attacks. So once we've identified that we actually have an active attack taking place, there's many things we can actually do. For example, cut the communication to the identified IP addresses in the back end, or we can contain the system to identify what was stolen and make a forensic image of that system. We can also deceive, meaning we can interfere with the command and control with tools and techniques. These also include things like honeypots. Honeypots in your organization could be systems that pretend to be production systems, but what they do, they deceive the attackers to actually try and attack them, and you can actually log them. So if you have a honeypot and somebody actually attacks us, you know that you have a high possibility of a breach in your organization. And finally, we need to contain this attack, whereby we can do network segmentation, changes, and also microsegmentation. This means that your production, for example, is totally segmented, and within the production environment, you might have your SWIFT or your Forex payment system totally segmented. Nobody can get to that. You might have your multi-channel payment system on the other side, and every one of those channels are segmented and separated from each other. The advantage of this as well, if you have that micro-segmentation, any transgression between those segments can be identified and logged to your SIM.